Welcome to the GFY Podcast, a podcast by healthcare professionals providing insight on how to navigate your health so that you can go fix yourself. The GFY Podcast is hosted by Mike Bruno, a chiropractor and athletic trainer, and me, Michael Stant, an athletic trainer and certified strength conditioning specialist. Although we are healthcare providers, we are not your healthcare provider. We will discuss general health interventions in this podcast, but you should not take that as health advice that works in every situation. Before doing anything on your own or making any lifestyle changes, please consult with your own physician. This podcast and views from this podcast are separate from our full-time jobs and our own opinions. If you're enjoying the GFY podcast, please leave us a review on your listening platform and or subscribe to our podcast at YouTube. Links to our show can be found in the show notes on any platform that you're listening to. In today's episode, Bruno and I discuss if strength is the real reason why you're having pain. In many scenarios that we deal with, this is not the case. We discuss how we approach people with so-called strength issues and what you should be looking for when you see a rehab professional to see if they are appropriately addressing your pain and dysfunction. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Welcome to the GFY Podcast, and we're good. Let's rock right into it, Bruno.
Ooh, this guy's getting techie. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. What's going on in your world, Mike? Give me something good today.
My world? Good today. So I ran before this, so you're going to see even a little bit more energy than you're used to. And then I got a little cold brew next to me that I make myself, Folgers, if you're wondering. So I'm pretty pumped about that.
You are the definition of energy, right?
Yeah, I don't know anyone else who has more energy than me.
Oh, man. We just got to hear it in your voice and see it in your face, and then we'll be good.
Yeah, exactly.
You are a workhorse. You are a workhorse, that's for sure.
Yeah.
That
So
reminds me of a quick story to all get you to know Mikey a little bit better. So for those who don't know, we were roommates in college, and our house senior year was on the opposite side of campus of all of the bars and restaurants. So when we'd be walking home, it's easily a 20, 30-minute leisurely walk. And Mikey loved the Irish goodbye and would just disappear on you. So once I remember so clearly, like the rest of us were walking home and you just hear these really quick footsteps and we thought someone was running up on us to like jump us or mug us or something. And I turn around and it's Mikey sprinting down the street because he was running home because he thought the walk was going to take too long. And it was just a, hi guys, bye guys. And he got home in like 5 minutes. And that will always be one of those like defining moments for me of you.
Hey, sometimes I just wanted to get to bed. And well, what's funny part about that story is how I was behind you. Because if I was typically Irish goodbying all of you, I would really be like,
yeah, I don't know where you went before.
I must have sidetracked myself. Who knows?
Yeah.
We'll never know.
Mikey is the king of 7-Eleven taquitos, so he loves to talk about health and everything. But he has a weak spot.
I might have to revisit that UD alumni weekend a couple weekends from now, just for old time's sake.
Mikey will be there signing autographs if anyone's interested.
Yeah, I might be the most famous alumni. I don't know anyone more famous from UD than me.
Oh,
not a former president.
Yeah. Or Joe Flacco. Those are our two.
Oh yes. I mean, did Joe Flacco actually graduate? I think that's something else we have to look into.
I don't know.
It's a common athlete thing not to do.
Yeah. All right. What are we talking about today?
We're talking about is strength the problem? And I'm going to give you a story for a background on this one. And so I go back when I was a graduate assistant working football. And I remember going to a doctor's appointment with a football player. He's a junior, senior. So, been in a lifting program with the school for a long time, having some knee pain. Been a couple weeks, haven't seen the doctor. And the solution was, all right, like this is what it is. We'll start with some ibuprofen, whatever, NSAIDs, as we call them, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug, painkillers. Pain pills, but I don't like always saying pain pills because then some people think, the heavy narcotic stuff. But then he was like, all right, so yeah, what we need to do is just strengthen the quads and hamstring more. And I remember in that moment, I was like, all this guy does is lift. Like, how, and you don't think that we hit his quads and hamstrings during a lift? That doesn't really make sense. I think that was probably my first year as an athletic trainer when I first started questioning, like, oh wait, does every doctor actually know what happens like behind the scenes or around everything? Because you
Right.
always just kind of assume, like, oh well, they're a doctor with 30 years of experience. They've seen so many things. They probably know what works. But you got to remember, a lot of times they're not the ones actually rehabbing or seeing what actually works on the
Mm-hmm.
rehab side of things. So,
Mm-hmm.
ultimately, for that instance, strengthening quads and hamstrings wasn't really the solution for that knee pain. It ended up being some more proximal solutions in that case, where it was something more, maybe it's like this is what it is. And this is where we're going to get into semantics. Are we actually strengthening a hip? Like, are we doing hip abduction strengthening or glute med strengthening? Or are we just reteaching someone how to actually activate that muscle, and they are much better at moving in a certain way now that takes less stress off the knee?
Mm, mm, mm. All right. I have so many thoughts at one time. I don't even know where to start. In my entire time of doing this, I haven't ran into a pure weakness problem, true weakness problem.
And so for you too, let's also differentiate this, right? We're not talking about post-surgical people. And
Right.
because that is a much different game. Like,
Yeah.
you do need to have very specific strengthening, and we'll probably go into like mechanisms of what is strengthening, and maybe it,
Yeah.
and that's probably part of it too, is like, what is the definition of strength? What is
Yeah.
definition of strengthening? But go ahead.
So, yeah, in my world, I rarely come in contact with post-surgical cases or true neurological deficit cases, like people who would go to like to a hospital setting or true like neuro like
Mm-hmm.
PT. Those are people that I don't work with. They're not a good fit for what I do. Those are the people with true strength deficits, and their process back to where they want to go looks very different than what we do. But what I will tell you is there is an overwhelming majority of people who come in with like the mind garbage because they've seen someone else before, and they're like, I was told my core was weak, or I was told my hip was weak.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a conversation. A lot of them have that like mind blowing experience where we're talking through it, and it's your hip's not weak. It might not be in a position to be able to produce the strength that it has. And that's where we can make improvements, right? So if you're going to do the bicep curl, right? The typical bicep curl, arms by your side and curling, that's where you're probably strongest to lift the most amount of weight. If you put your arm behind you and up overhead and tried to do a bicep curl back there, wouldn't be able to do as much weight as effectively. Did your bicep get any weaker just moving your arm? No, all you did was change the position. So when we're having those types of conversations, that's something I say a lot of the times is root cause. Like, you have to know the problem you're solving, because for them, if they think, oh, I just have to strengthen my bicep, it's a very different conversation than, oh, I need to learn the strategies and the positions that are going to make my bicep stronger for me, or feel stronger, express the strength. It's a very different conversation.
So I want to not vary too far off here, but so when someone has an issue, they go to PT, Cairo, something, they go, hey, you got to go to 6 weeks because you have to strengthen XYZ. And let's say they do your typical tabletop exercises or whatnot, and it works. Why does it work?
Ooh, good question. Devil's
Yeah.
advocate.
Yeah.
So a lot of the times and I'll blanket statement this with the typical, they call them like mill PT places. So shotgun approach, where if there's 10 people with back pain, those 10 people, no matter old, young, active, not active, they'll get the same 4 or 5 exercises. So they call that the shotgun approach, meaning that some people will get better, some people will get no results, and a few people might even get worse. So those are when you're constrained by time, and I have friends in the industry who are trying to see 4 people an hour, and they're juggling back and forth between all of them. You don't really have a ton of time to think through it clinically outside of, oh, your back hurts, so do these back exercise. It's like bang, bang, bang. Then you go walk to the next person, bang, 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 walk to the next person, because you're like, it's not a bad doctor. They're just very crunched on time, and they don't have the time to get as granular with specifics.
Yeah.
And usually in that scenario, like, most people who see me have tried that and it didn't work for them. So there's a fit out there for everyone. So my recommendation is, if you haven't tried anything, they start with the easiest stuff. And if that doesn't work, then we have to have a conversation, because if it was a back problem, the back solution, right? Like they gave you those 3 exercises for a reason. They're not trying to intentionally give you crappy stuff. It's, they've seen across millions of people that's come through those doors. That's, if I can give you 3 exercises without knowing nothing about you besides, hey, it's back pain, these are going to be the most likely ones to work. Those work for 30% of the people that walk in the door. Great. Those 30 people are good because it was actually a back problem. The other 60 whatever percent need more help.
Gotcha. So would you say, so I want to reel back for myself. So like, go back to like, what is a strengthening program? Or maybe it's for me, and because I think what you see sometimes too, like maybe people are struggling and you give them a weightlifting program, like the true idea of strengthening. Okay, how about we just start going to a weightlifting program and they just start doing what they see as strengthening and things get better for them. Like, let's say they have low back pain, but you go, all right, how about we start, not that this always happens, but like, how about we start squatting, deadlifting, lunging? Like, do you ever see that lead to people getting out of pain?
Absolutely.
And the reason why I bring that up, because one of my brothers actually, like, he kind of talked about, he was going to a physical therapist, he was having a bunch of glute pain, we probably call it piriformis syndrome, and like, it wasn't getting better. And so then he was like, I just decided to start lifting again, and I started lifting heavy, and it just cleared up, and that was it. And I think that's important too. It's like, if you're truly like what it is, I don't know if I would call that like a strength problem, right? He just wasn't figuring out a way to actually get proper glute activation. Like, having a resistance to it forced him to get proper glute activation. So like, once again, you kind of go back to like, it really does become like an individualized thing where certain things work for certain people. What is their actual issue? Do they already have a high tolerance to all these exercises that you're doing, and kind of been through it?
Oh man, you really want to grind my gears? Like, going back to the cookie cutter approach. If you have, grandma who hasn't worked out in 40 years, the glute bridges and the hamstring stretch might help her. But if you have a CrossFit, I have one guy in mind in particular, a high level CrossFit athlete who does, or a college athlete who does, like 2-3 workouts a day, and you give him those same 3 exercises, in what world is that stimulus going to have any effect? Right? You can do a lot with a little, right? But the goal is not strengthening in those situations. So in the cookie cutter approach, they're like, oh, you just got to strengthen your glutes. Here's a green rubber band. Someone who squats 500 pounds is not going to strengthen their glutes with a clamshell. Let's be clear about that. They're already way past that point. So if the answer is strength, you have to look at something that's actually going to provide that stimulus, versus that same person who can squat 500 pounds and they have back pain. It's, oh, we can see you're limited in hip rotation here. We have to do this exercise that isn't a strength exercise. It's a position changing exercise. It's a shape changing exercise.
Neuromuscular is kind of essentially what you're saying. Yeah. If you want to get into it. Yeah.
Right. So we being able to change like how the muscles that are already strong, how they pull, push, and work, right? Teaching your body how to do that, unlearning all the junky habits that you had before. A lot of the times that results in pain relief. They didn't get any stronger or weaker with that exercise. It was just the changing of position that alleviated pain and improved range of motion.
Yeah, and you always want that transfer over, right? If they're having pain specifically with squatting or specifically with something they do every day, specifically in their sport, it's you do the exercise that you use to show them how to get that range of motion, And then if you truly know you have someone good, right? And I know you do this, you go and follow them in the gym and go, let me see how you move. Let's see if there's something that it doesn't transfer over.
Oh, you're really pushing my buttons here.
Yeah.
The amount of times that I've talked to people where it's, hey, my back hurts during a deadlift specifically. And it's like, okay, what have you tried before? It's like, oh, I went to PT. And it's like, okay, what'd you do? And they're like, oh, I did the blah, blah, blah. I can predict it, what the 3 things are going to say is. And I'm like, okay, did anyone look at your deadlift form? No.
No.
Like,
Yeah.
what? I don't get it. I don't get it.
It's funny because there's so many apps and things that are out there now that like you can even just like, hey, take a video, send it to us, and I can point it out. Like I could point it out to you what's going on initially, and then I could even say like give you feedback in 2 seconds. And the issue is that that's not how those places make money. They don't make money off that eval, that at home eval essentially. But
dude, hot take is that it's borderline malpractice if you go in with a clear like deadlifting hurts my back and they do not assess your deadlift.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I mean, it's like, right, same thing with like anything that you do, like running, just because running's my big thing. It's like, I've got more to, like, you know, I would say probably early on in my career, and maybe you thought the same thing. It was like, well, if I see the deficit in here and I correct it, that automatically means it transfers over, right?
Dude, it's like driving your car to the mechanic and saying like, oh, I have a flat tire. They're like, but your windows are not cracked, so like whatever. It makes no sense. Makes no sense. And you know, getting out of pain usually is the first step, right? I don't want to discredit that. Getting out of pain, improving the range of motion is usually how we go about doing that. Then once you have that range of motion and we don't have pain, then we have to work on being able to control those ranges of motion. And that's where people call that strength and working through those new positions. And then from there, after you have that foundation set, then it's activity specific, whether it's golf, deadlifting, tennis, whatever your thing is. You have to be able to use that dynamically, explosively, athletically. Because again, if you're a high level tennis athlete, a lot of cutting, jumping, changing direction, max barbell back squatting is probably not going to be super effective for you to be good at tennis.
Mm-hmm.
You might get your legs stronger. You would probably actually know this study because I know you love to just read in your free time. Mm-hmm. I want to say it was Mississippi State they hired this new strength coach, and he came in for the football team, and he was like, oh, like squat day, like squat. All of the football players' squat numbers went up. He did his job in that regard. They had a terrible season, and everyone's like speed testing, all of them got slower. So it's like the trade-off is like, okay, cool. You can say like all your players squat the most in any like NCAA like rival school, but your record is poo-poo and you have no speed metrics that were like you got slower and your record was worse. So really was the trade-off worth it?
Yeah, it's where, you know, I've talked about this before, right? You lose power and speed within like 5 days of not training it. So it's like it's really important to focus on that stuff throughout any program.
Everyone go outside and sprint today.
Yeah, I did. That was part of my run this morning. So, but yeah, I think so there are like certain things within the strengthening world, right? So if you go to the guidelines, right? If you want to cause hypertrophy, which hypertrophy and strength aren't the same. Hypertrophy, make muscles bigger, does not equal strength. Okay. Like if you're truly trying to strengthen, you have to get out of that like 3x10 sets of whatever you can do at a moderate weight. You have to get to that 4 to 5 sets of 4 to 5 reps essentially. But there are things within the strength world that I think are actually very good at modulating pain. So like kind of altering how pain occurs. And I think that's where eccentrics come in, especially if you have someone with tendon pain. I don't know if you ever utilize that, but right, for whatever reason, no one can really tell you why. But eccentric strengthening. So right, let's say you do a pull up and you go really slow on the way down, right? You're up, go all the way up to the top, nice and slow on the way down. That's eccentric. So going slow while a muscle is lengthening is is the technical term, but that seems to do a really good job when it comes to tendon pain. And so that is where I was like, okay, that is maybe a strengthening aspect that's important depending on what you're dealing with. Now, could you also eliminate some stress on the tendon by shifting how you move somewhere else throughout your body, depending on what it is? Like if it's rotator cuff, or you're getting better rib cage movement. If it's patellar tendonitis or tendinopathy is what we should call it. Is it more hip range of motion that takes load off? Maybe that might work too. I'm sure it's a little bit combination of both.
If it's a true tendon injury, I like the progression of isometrics.
Yep.
Meaning like you're putting force through it, but you're physically not moving. So like holding a position, then eccentrics, like you said, and then, the dynamic or explosive versions of it. One of my buddies did. So I'll get nerdy for a second. The viscoelastic properties of a tendon, meaning like how the tendon reacts to the rapid change in force. So if you really slowly move something or move a tendon or a muscle, it has give. But if you quickly go like and pull it really fast, it's going to be very resistive to that and create a lot more force. I used to have a toy that did this. It was like the Mr. Fantastic from the Fantastic Four, the stretchy dude. Yeah. If you like held his leg and you pulled on it, it would get like 10 times longer. But if you, or it's silly putty essentially. Yeah. So think of silly putty. So if you have silly putty at home, take it out, pull it really slow, you can get a lot of stretch out of it. But if you take that silly putty and you try to like pull it really fast, it's like, it either stops you and puts the brakes on, or it snaps. So one of the two things are going to happen there. And your tendons and ligaments have very similar properties. So when people run into injury, they have to be able to be prepared for those types of situations. And that's where a good rehab plan comes into play. And strengthening is not always the answer to that problem.
Yeah, and like one thing I want to point out too, it's like, all right, you have ankle pain. All right, you have to do ankle strengthening. Well, it hurts for me to do those movements. So what? And then like people still do it. So like, right, people can't get over it, or they have to wait that much longer to do anything to rehab, because people get narrow-minded in that sense. Same thing with like knee, like, right, that's why we go with isometrics and eccentrics, because usually they can tolerate it. But that's always like something that you have to keep in mind. Gonna quiz you right now. What's a novel approach to get hypertrophy strength without having to load a muscle completely?
Like BFR stuff?
Yeah, BFR.
Nice.
I guess I feel like it's not novel anymore. I feel like everyone kind of knows it, or like what's novel about it is that not everyone has it, because it's still like an expensive thing to put into a clinic / there's some risks and things like that. But like, I can tell you my time in the college setting, like huge use for it to like, if you want to get someone out of pain very quickly, it did a very good job of getting someone out of tendon pain, so then you could do the rest of your rehab.
So explain what BFR is then, bro.
I'm sorry.
You're honeypotting everybody.
Yeah. Blood flow restriction training. Okay. So to break it down, right? So essentially they're glorified blood pressure cuffs, but they can, you can kind of figure out how much blood flow is going to a limb with it, and they'll give you feedback on it. So let's say
there is a science to it. Don't just be tourniqueting your arms and legs every day.
Yeah. There's a science. So like, don't just take a blood pressure cuff, get rid of blood flow, and then work out with it. That's not safe. Or using a strap. Don't do that. There are better commercial products out there where you can do this safely, and probably go through a rehab professional before doing it. But what I would say is, all right, let's say you could squat 500 pounds. All right. If you put these cuffs on and you squat at 30% of that with the cuffs on at 80% occlusion. So what's 30? I can't think of the math right now. There's a reason why I picked 500. 25%. So right, you could essentially squat with the cuffs on at 125 to 150 pounds and get the same results from a strength and hypertrophy standpoint.
Within the muscle.
Okay. Yeah. So that's where it's hugely benefit in the rehabbing from pain and exercise world, because right, a lot of times you can't tolerate loading that much, but you put the cuff on, you could get the strength without having to load as much. So always something I like when I talk to people, you know, athletes that are trying to figure out where to go. That is like one of the modalities where I'll be like, see if they have blood flow restriction training, they're certified in it, especially if it's like a chronic pain, tendon pain that they just haven't been able to get out of for a few weeks.
Yeah, it's all tools in the toolbox, right? My biggest takeaways from everything we talked about to put a bow on it, from a strength perspective, strength is not always the answer. And usually when people do strengthening exercises in quotes and it is helpful, it's usually because they're either deconditioned or the thing that they thought was strength was actually changing up the position that they were using, and that's why it was effective.
Yeah. I mean, I think me and you even still, like, we still say, or maybe you don't as much, but sometimes I'll say, oh, we have to strengthen this just because it might just be easier for them to understand it. Sometimes,
absolutely.
Yeah, like I do it by accident. Like
I preface it because a lot of people say it to me first. They're like, "Oh, is my glute just weak?" And I say, "Nope,
it's just
you are not."
on.
I was like, "You are not weak. The position that you're trying to use it in, you're not being able to express the strength that you have. So we just have to change the position." And this is cool because it's like, oh, my deadlift, every time I go over 100 pounds, it hurts, right? It's like, okay, let me see your deadlift. And they're doing something weird with their neck or their knees or whatever, like performance cues, tweaks like that. I'll look at them and they'll be like, hey, it hurts to pull 100 pounds. It hurts my back. It's like, okay, stare at this spot on the ground and don't let your knees do this. Then A, their pain goes away, and B, they have a 100-pound jump in their deadlift, like in that session. So we didn't get any stronger. We just changed the position. We worked on some ways to be more safe and effective in that deadlift, and it improved their strength. But because we were able to manipulate the position to express the strength they already had.
And you're pretty much saying this, and I've said this to people before. If your problem gets fixed in under 6 weeks, it's not a strength issue. like right, that's how long it actually,
can't get strength, like true actual strength in that amount of time.
Yeah, so like that's something you gotta, like, right, it's not an actual strength issue. It's you aren't moving the way that you should. You're not putting your muscles in a specific position to work effectively.
It's a movement problem. It's not a muscle problem.
Yeah.
Oh man, without doing too many tangents there, you know what? We'll make it next time. We'll cut it there. We'll leave a cliffhanger. I was gonna go somewhere, but I will save it for the next episode.
Good. You'll have to tell me off air.
Yes. Love you all. Love you all. I hope you are eagerly anticipating our next episode, because I was, breadcrumbing you to this next realization. Love you all. Go fix yourself.